The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. This is the introduction to the Science of Mind text written by Ernest Holmes in the 1920s. He goes on to tell us, freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under law, spiritual law. Thus, the inherent nature of you and I is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We do well, he tells us, to listen to this voice, this inner voice that tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom of which the soul craves. This is the introduction to the founding text of the Science of Mind, of the Centers for Spiritual Living. And for me, it is the foundational why we learn to manifest. This is why we gain skills to practice metaphysics, to practice making use of spiritual law. It isn't for stuff. It isn't for the next shiny thing. It isn't so that we can participate more fully in the capitalism. It's for freedom. It's for liberation. So that is what I want to get into this month in this series, is manifesting liberation. Getting into the practice of metaphysics for the purpose of building the new world. I am Reverend Amani Malaika, and I am so very glad that you are here. And if you're in the Albuquerque area, I really, really, really deeply invite you, would love to spend time with you diving deeper into the art of manifesting, which I'll be teaching Saturdays for the month of May, and you can learn more at a website, ABQCSL.org. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. I am a light, I am a light, I am a light in this world. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. And I shine, and I shine, and I shine so bright. How do you feel? Feel a little more shiny? A little more shiny? Good. Because that's what we're talking about today, is that you are the light of this world, and you have to be able to find your way to that truth with some swagger, with some confidence that this is the actual truth of my being. And when you and I can get into the swaggeriness of our true selves and show up in the world as we are designed to be as spiritual beings, we can be the lights of the world. We can be the change we want to see in the world. We can be the transformative, energetic presence that is desperately needed in the world. But Ernest Holmes said to us that we must have such a deep conviction about the truth of who we are and the truth of the universe so that we turn away from outer authority. So we drop this idea that there is something out here that has authority over me and what is true. But it is a challenge to actually take that authority and make it real. I heard today, I was actually reading something today, and they were talking about the collective freeze that is happening in the US particularly, but maybe even globally. That, when there is a threat, when we perceive a threat to our lives, right? There's the automatic response we have in our nervous systems. We fight, we flight, we freeze, or we fawn.
And they were saying that there is a collective freeze response happening. Because there's a real threat, right? We're experiencing a level of crazy in the world and society that is got all of us, whether we're conscious of it or not, a little shook about what we can expect, right? And are we safe, right? It might be a threat to their life, but it might actually be a threat to my life too. And so there's this collective, somewhat conscious, somewhat unconscious fight or flight response happening. And most of us have gone the route of freeze. Some of us are in flight, but most of us have gone the route of freeze. But what happens when you are in that frozen place, right? You're trying to be like, don't look at me, kill the person over there, don't kill me, right? That's what freezing is about, right? You're trying not to be seen. But if you are in that automatic nervous system response to the realities we are facing, you can't actually know yourself as the truth of who you are. You just turn everything off so that you won't be seen. And it's a valid response, right? When we are experiencing threat, we are built to have these responses, to keep us alive, to keep us safe. But we have to understand, as people who are having the privilege of not having bombs dropped on our heads right now, you and I get to choose how we respond to the threat, because it's not imminent, even though it might feel like it. And I'm saying to you that because we have choice, because we have practice, because we know a truth that can be experienced in our bodies, we can actually show up as a beneficial presence to those around us who might be stuck in that dysregulated nervous system place. But we've got to figure out how to get ourselves out of the dysregulated nervous system place. And we have to kind of acknowledge that we're in one. When I read that earlier today, I actually had a slightly different sermon prepared for today. And then I read that and I was like, oh, damn. I've been in freeze too. That's this thing I haven't been able to name that I've been feeling, right? This weird, not even dissociation. I'm not present, but I'm not alive, right? I'm sort of in minor robot mode. I'm doing what must be done, but I have this sense of slight disconnection from my life, right? And I've called it a lot of things. Active grieving, which we're also all doing. And that can make you tired and make you feel disconnected. But when I read that today, I thought, here it is. Here it is. This is the way that I have begun to regulate my nervous system, by going into freeze, going into flight, actively running away from feeling anything too big, right? But what I know for sure is the only way to access conviction, Ernest specifically says to us, stop looking for an authority outside your own conviction. This calls for complete confidence in the law, spiritual law, and equal confidence in yourself. Stop looking for authority outside your own conviction. But the only way we have conviction is by feeling it. And how much can you feel convicted if you are shut down? If you're in fight or flight or freeze or fawn? I don't do fawning very well, I don't know. I do fight and flight pretty well, but I don't do fawning so much. But you can choose your disconnection, choose your dysregulation. But all of those choices, if we don't acknowledge that we're in it, right? That we have disconnected ourselves, that we have gone into this like autonomic response to threat, that we are shut down, that we are disconnected from our own conviction. And oftentimes because we're looping on our uncertainty, we're looping on our fear, we're looping on the powers that be outside of us that we think are ruining it for everybody. And we loop on that. So that becomes the thing that we are attuned to, which makes it really easy to feel like you're under threat all the time. And if you're not having consciousness, if you're not having awareness about the ways that you are responding to the external circumstances, to the stimulus outside of you, you give up your authority. You give away your power, the only power you actually have, that anybody actually has, which is to know the truth of who you are and to live as the truth of who you are. Those are the ways that you and I, as John Lewis said, can make good trouble. We can't make good trouble if we're like fawning or asleep or on the run. We can't be the presence for greater good that we're called to be as spiritual beings when we're in this dysregulated nervous system place. So we get to then do the work of getting regulated. What's one way, if I know many of you are trained, educated, know about kind of trauma-informed care practices. What's one way that we can actually regulate when it feels like it's out of our reach? Anybody? Yoga. Co-regulation. Co-regulation. We regulate because we're together. We let other people's grounded, centered, regulated nervous systems help bring us back. We let the energy of someone else's grounded energy entrain ours. Literally, it's a scientifically proven scenario where we can allow someone else's stronger energetic field to shift ours to theirs. This is what co-regulation is. So coming into rooms like these, working with a practitioner, having intention in your home with your partner or your family, we can co-regulate. This is not something that you have to rely on yourself to be able to do. And there's yoga, and there's
I was going to say reaching out to somebody.
co-regulation.
Yes.
Right.
It takes time and it takes safety to come out of a freeze. So mindfully creating safety.
Yes.
Islands of sanity.
Islands of Sanity, which is just something we took a training on, has that been 2 years now? Yeah. And here's what I want us to really, really wrap our brains around. And which is why, as spiritual beings and who have spiritual practices, I think it's critical. And I deeply believe it is fundamental to seeing any change we want to see in the world, is to have a spiritual life, to have a spiritual practice. I don't think we get there without it. That's why I do what I do. But we can no longer play the game of my life is over here and all my doings and things and my politics and my policies and my community and my justice work and my grocery shopping and my budget, and then my spiritual life is over here. We can't keep doing that. We can't keep doing spirituality for an hour a week on Sundays. If we want to be the light of the world that we are called to be. If we want, and I know every single person in this room wants to see the circumstances of the world, not just even of our country, change for better. I know every single one of you do. And I think many of us feel like at a loss, have thrown our hands up. We don't even know how to be in it or who to be or how to help or what to do. Well, let's start by getting in our bodies and getting regulated. Let's start by remembering that there is a greater truth at play that is greater than the circumstantial realities we feel so swept up in. That God is bigger, that love is bigger, and that the way to the flippin' fantastic future we all want for ourselves comes through being so convicted about that we can roll up into some crazy scenarios and be like, what? God's here. I'm not going to be shook. I'm not going to be spun. I am going to be the presence of good. I'm going to be the presence of truth, and I won't stand for anything but that because I am convicted about the authority in my own knowing. And anything that is out of alignment with that, I'm a no. And I don't have to even be in conversation. It's not up for discussion. Because I know the truth of my being. I know the truth of God. I know the truth of love, which means I know who you are. And I can't be convinced otherwise. This is how we get to be that presence of change, that presence of love, how we can transmute the shenanigans and insanity of other people's misunderstanding and misbelief and misbehavior. That's how that gets to be changed, because we can stay present in it. We can be a part of the solution. We can be the creative force that is birthing new, which is what we talked about on Mother's Day. But we have to be willing to get deeply convicted about it, which means we have to unplug enough from all of that stimulus that is triggering us into these fight or flight responses to come back into that regulated space and to know that we are safe regardless of the circumstances around us. That's part of the lie we tell ourselves that makes it convenient to stay a little numbed out and disconnected or dissociated. We convince ourselves that we are not safe, and we will tell a story about it. So-and-so is mean to me. I'm not safe with them. So-and-so looked at me sideways when I came in. Not safe. 100 people in my life can't say my name right. Does that mean the world is not safe for me? Right? My rights get fucked with left and right my entire lifetime. I am safe in the world. My safety is not dependent on anybody else's activities. My safety is entirely dependent on how I know myself to be. Who I know myself to be. So we have to stop lying to ourselves. I was reading this amazing new book I got on the Quran, and they were talking about that we often seek a convenient truth rather than truth. And that we have to know ourselves as what kind of seeker are we? Which truth are we seeking? I think many of us in rooms like these think of ourselves as spiritual seekers. But are we seeking convenience or are we seeking truth? Are we seeking comfort? Are we seeking cozy? Or are we seeking truth? Are we seeking power, which is the skillful use of my own energy to create good? And the only place that I can make skillful use of the power that I have been ordained with, that you have been ordained with, through your very aliveness, is by being in relationship with the power that is in you, as a spiritually alive, conscious being. And knowing and trusting that when you feel threatened, when you get triggered, that you have a way back to center. that you have a community of people who are happy to help you do it. That you have a set of practices that ground you deeply, that allow you to be the light of the world. Or as Margaret Wheatley, when the class that we took on creating islands of sanity, communities like these, to be a warrior for the human heart. Which is the call of our time. Which is the ask of spiritual community. The ask is no longer doing your task of spirituality. It's not even to be a good spiritual person. It is to become so deeply convicted about what you know to be true in every fiber of your being that you can walk in the world being a stand for that. That you cannot be diminished, you cannot be quieted. There was a young man who was the commencement speaker at NYU's graduation this last week, Logan Rozos. And he used his entire commencement speech in front of this, thousands of people at the NYU graduation ceremony to declare his stance on Palestine. And they have pulled they're not letting him graduate. This is what it means to be a warrior for the human heart. When you are given a microphone, when you're given a platform, when you're given a possibility to be a stand for truth, you take it. Whether it's safe or not. And we all have this possibility in us. Because God. What do we know about the divine? That it is omnipresent and omnipotent. And because that is the truth, not always convenient truth, it means that you have the access to this omnipotence through the presence in you. This is why we practice. This is why we are going to spend the next chunk of time together in this space, getting in our bodies, regulating our nervous systems together. Clarissa is going to lead us in an embodiment practice that I hope you take with you this week. Some piece of this that will let you move through your days more clearly and truthfully, showing up as the wholeness of your spiritual self.
Let's take a moment to open in prayer. As we gather in this precious space, let us know that the source of life breathes through us, in us, for us, and allows us to be the beauty that we are in this universe. Let us give thanks for being together and for Reverend Amani, who so graciously lights our way. And so it is.